more reference. Luke chapter 4, verse 28. Luke chapter 4, verse 28. I understand that this is difficult conversations, how to have that conversation that you've been avoiding. But I want to make sure you're sensitive, you're prayed up, you've come before the Holy Spirit, because he may be telling you, you know what? This person's not even ready for this. Or he may be telling you, be discerning, watch their body language, watch their energy. That's what I had to do in my situation. It was crystal clear to me. And you know what's sad is, if you know me well, I put so much energy into seasoning my words with salt, only to have it thrown back in my face. But I thank God that I had the wisdom to know and demonstrate what I'm sharing tonight, because otherwise I would have just kept throwing, as they say, investing good money after bad. You got to know when to cut your losses. You got to know how to protect yourself. You know, if Jesus, 4 or 5 different references where he avoided certain situations. If Proverbs says a prudent man avoids evil, notice what else it says, but the simple keep going. You've got to ask yourself, if you're experiencing deja vu, how many times am I going to keep going, putting myself in the same situation, ignoring the heating of the Holy Spirit, not submitting to him when he's made it clear that this person is not safe? Luke chapter 4, verse 28. Jesus in context is Jesus in Nazareth. I don't even have to say anything else. It says, so all those in the synagogue, when they heard these things, they were filled with wrath and rose up to thrust him out of the city. And they led him to the brow of the hill on which the city was built, that they might throw him down over the cliff. This is his hometown. Then passing through the midst of them, he went his way. Now, I don't know how he did it, but I think he did some sort of little shimmy. But he realized this situation ain't looking good, and I'm not going to stay here a second longer. So let's just recapitulate very quickly. What have we talked about? We're talking about the fact that we're going to be having a series on difficult conversations, how to have the conversation that you've been avoiding. And we've talked about the fact that in that scenario, we want to be clear that there's more that you do in these situations than just pray. Prayer is good. But in some cases, the Bible is very clear, you use increasing levels of peer pressure. This is why you want to make sure that you're in community. If the person that you're involved with or the people you're involved with, if they have, the most dangerous man is the man who's judge and juror at the same time. That's a dangerous person. You want to make sure that there's embedded accountability. This is why you want to make sure that you're in small groups and you're in studies and you're in community where people can hold each other accountable. Then you want to make sure that you speak the truth in love, because by not doing it, you could be promoting evil. You know, I don't mean to be morbid or make light of such a horrific thing, but do you know, as a counselor, that if there is any type of sexual misconduct committed against a minor, the second the counselor finds out, they're obligated to report it. Because why? Because most people would rather be a peacekeeper than a peacemaker. Most people would rather just kind of, if you listen to talk shows, and they'll say, well, hi, my name is Jane, and I'm calling in because such and such, and when I was little, my uncle did. The first thing they'll ask is, has this been reported to the authorities? Why? Because it's biblical to keep elevating things until there's a degree of accountability. And most people, most men in particular, but women as well, will try to run from that accountability. So we're talking about these nuances, getting our mind right, getting our heart prepared, not consistently putting ourselves in harm's way, listening to the Spirit. Recognizing that there's some people that in this season of life, the most loving thing you can do for you and for them is to create space. We're talking about the fact that some people need the loss of the relationship or the exchange or the dynamic before they come to their senses. This is something that I value. This is something that was ministering to me. Now that we've established that, and I really want you, I want you to really listen to this teaching series on crazy folks, because it's 8 weeks talking about these dynamics. We look at different Bible characters. We look at Saul, the first king of Israel, and we look at the fact that when you're dealing with these difficult people, we give you a profile from how you can recognize them early. Tonight I've talked about the importance of setting boundaries, but this was 8 weeks to identifying them. Crazy folks, some of the characteristics of crazy folks are people who have a relationship with your yes, but they don't have a relationship with your no. So as long as you're giving them money, as long as you're giving them a ride, as long as you're the buddy, but the second you're not doing that, or the second you say no, they have no relationship. In that teaching, we talk about how the difficult or crazy person has the tendency to project onto the world how they see themselves. So it's almost like if they're looking through a window pane that's blue and the blue tint is low self-esteem, people hate me, whatever it is, then they project that on to everybody else. We talk about altered realities and being divorced from reality. And the difficult person exhibits that. The difficult person oftentimes takes on a victim's mentality. The world's against them. Here's one that we have one session that makes this whole thing, makes the whole teaching series worth the investment, is the two favorite tools of the difficult person are guilt and manipulation. What do you mean you're setting a boundary? You mean you're not going to, I have 3 kids, so you're not going to, guilt and manipulation. So that's such a great resource because it will help you delineate. It'll give you the tools so that you don't keep allowing yourselves to be in the same position. Very quickly, I want to talk about the difference between hurting and harming people. Hurting and harming people. Because oftentimes in communication, the person that you're either confronting or speaking the truth in love will say that you're harming them, but in reality, you're hurting them. To harm means to maim or to afflict. In other words, when a surgeon conducts surgery on you, it may hurt, but he's not trying to harm you. The surgical knife may hurt, the incision may hurt, but his intentions are not to harm you. You need to make this distinction because generally speaking, with the difficult person or with the difficult conversation that you've been avoiding, the person's response, their knee-jerk response is that you're harming me, you're doing something evil, you're doing something that's un-Christ-like. You call yourself a Christian. So you want to make the distinction. Think about when you ate sugar and it gave you a cavity. When you were eating all that candy, all those Now and Laters, all those M&Ms, all those Skittles. When you were doing it, was it hurting you? But when you went to the dentist and he started drilling on that cavity, you know where I'm going with this.